Thank you so much to the author and publishers who sent me these 20 books in the second half of April. A majority of these books were sent to me by Kensington Publishing. I picked them out during their offices tour that I went to in New York City. It's in my New York vlog if you're interested in seeing that. First up, thank you to author Sara Ennis for sending me a copy of The Carver Girl. This publishes on June 18th and will be available on Kindle Unlimited. This is a standalone thriller, but the 8th book in a series, and it follows a woman named Lucy Carver who spent many years in a psychiatric facility accusing her father of being a serial killer. But now her father has passed away and she's no longer in that facility, and women are disappearing again. Thank you, Kensington Publishing, for these 10 books. Humboldt Cut by Allison Mick is a horror book that follows a woman who is confronted by supernatural forces within a forest and is forced to confront a dark family legacy. The Dreadfuls by A. Ray Dunlap is a gothic historical fiction thriller about a woman who decides she's going to figure out the case of the serial killer Jack the Ripper. The Curse of Hester Gardens by Tamika Thompson is a haunted house story that follows a mother who is trying to protect her sons from dangerous violence and an otherworldly menace within their public housing project. Not What It Seems by Lisa Jackson is a gothic thriller that publishes on June 30th, and it follows a crime writer and her detective husband as they race to expose an obsessive killer. Burned Down Master's House by Clay Kane is a genre-defying historical fiction with stories about the revolt against American slavery in the 19th century. House of Martins by Lotlo Samasi publishes on May 26th, and this is a haunted house mystery thriller that follows the disappearance of an African writer whose sister is left with only a true crime podcast to figure out what happened to her. And I have the special edition of Guess Again by Charlie Donnelly. This is a police procedural thriller that follows a detective turned ER doctor who is called back to the force to solve the disappearance of a 17-year-old girl who vanished many years ago. Then we have the trad published version of Grey After Dark by Noelle W. Eiley. This publishes on June 30th, and it's a thriller that follows an Olympic-level skier who gets abducted in the forest. Molka by Monica Kim is a horror book that follows a woman who gets entangled in an extreme case of voyeurism. Beyond the Graves Waits Mist and Sea by Kathleen Kaufman publishes on September 29th, and this is a magical realism literary horror that follows a marine biologist that is looking to document an elusive octopus and finds herself on a miscoded island where her own destiny is revealed. Thank you, Tor Nightfire, for these next 2 books. Headlights by CJ Lead publishes on June 9th, and this is a horror book that follows a detective who is called back to a place he promised he'd never go back to, Denver, where people are being found on the side of the road wearing the skin of victims they supposedly never met. And with another striking similarity, they all have a strand of hair of a stranger tied around their tongues. I read this one a while ago. I loved it. I rated it 5 stars. Our Coat of Salt by Dina Helm publishes on September 22nd, and this is a literary paranormal horror book that follows 3 generations of Palestinian women as they must finally put the haunting of their ancestral home to rest. I read this not too long ago. I thought it was phenomenal. I rated it 4.75 stars. I lied. I actually have 21 books. This one is from Bindery, from my friend Naomi from the Mixed Up Desk. What Feeds Below by Tatiana Shaloti-Bonet is a YA fantasy horror book that follows these 2 best friends who work at this place called The Void, which is like this endless chasm that goes deep into the ground that has these carnivorous plants, deadly creatures, and we follow our 2 main characters as they descend into the void in search of a relic that's payout will make all of their wildest dreams come true, and of course it goes terribly wrong. It publishes on October 6th. I literally just read this. I was obsessed with it. I rated it 5 stars. Thank you, Titan Books, for sending me a copy of Bodies of Work by Clay McLeod Chapman. This is a horror novella that follows a murderous artist whose victims come back to haunt him. I read this as an ARC. I loved it. I rated it 4.25 stars. Thank you, Saga Press, for the copy of Wife-Shaped Bodies by Laura Cranehill. This is an eco-feminist literary horror that follows Nicole, who lives in a patriarchal society where women are covered in mushroom growths. This is a bizarre read. I just finished it recently and I rated it 3.5 stars. Thank you, HarperCollins, for the 10-year anniversary edition of The One by John Mars. It has 5 extended chapters following the characters from the original story 10 years later. This is a great dystopian thriller. It's one of my absolute favorites and I rated it 5 stars. Fair Chase by Travis Mulhauser follows a runaway 14-year-old child who knows the location of the only gray wolf to come to this area in Michigan in over 100 years and teams up with his family in order to protect it. Thank you, Hogarth Publishing, for this copy of Monsters in the Archives, My Year of Fear with Stephen King by Caroline Bix. This is a nonfiction exploration into some of Stephen King's early works. Thank you, Dutton Books, for the copy of Dissection of a Murder by Joe Murray. This is a legal thriller following a lawyer who is defending a man accused of killing a judge, and she's going up against one of the most ruthless prosecutors she's ever known, her own husband. It publishes on May 5th. And lastly, thank you, Poison Pen Press, for this copy of You Girls Play Nice by Katie Alden. It publishes on June 16th, and this is a thriller. And this follows 4 friends who make up these scenarios where they seek revenge on the person that killed their friend, but then a murder actually takes place that mirrors one of their hypothetical revenge plots. Again, thank you so much to author Sara Ennis for sending me a copy of your book, and to all of the publishers who sent me these amazing books. I'm so grateful.